I'm creating the strongest pirate crew in One Piece, and this crew has to be powerful enough to defeat even the Rocks pirates and successfully find the One Piece. The crew will have a total of 10 members, and every single one has to be the absolute best at their role. So let's start with the very first member, a ship, because without an incredible ship, you won't survive for long on the Grand Line. And after what happened to the Going Merry, I never want to see something like that again. Oda actually made us cry over a ship. Right now, we have 3 amazing choices: the Oro Jackson, the Big Top from the Big Mom Pirates, and the Thousand Sunny. Now honestly, the Big Top is only impressive because of Big Mom's powers. Without her abilities, it's just a huge ship that doesn't really stand out, but our goal is to find the One Piece, so what could possibly be better than the Oro Jackson? After all, that's the very ship Gol D. Roger used to reach Laugh-Tale and conquer the Grand Line. It was also built from the legendary Atom Wood, the strongest wood in the world. However, even if the Thousand Sunny isn't 1,000 times better than the Oro Jackson, it's still the superior choice. It was built from the same Atom Wood, but with far more advanced technology. There's even a popular theory that the Sunny is connected to an ancient weapon, since both Frankie and Iceberg had access to the blueprints of Pluton. On top of that, the Kuda Burst lets the Sunny launch itself through the air for nearly a kilometer, making it perfect for both surprise attacks and quick escapes. So our ship is officially the Thousand Sunny. Now that we've got the ship, it's time to pick someone who can actually steer it, a helmsman. Surprisingly, there are only a handful of notable helmsmen in the entire world of One Piece. Our first option is Hakugan from the Heart Pirates, but let's be honest, besides Trafalgar Law, almost nobody remembers the rest of his crew. In fact, before making this video, I didn't even remember this guy's name. Chances are, you didn't either, and by the time this video ends, I'll probably forget it again. So yeah, he's out. We still have 2 more options for the helmsman position: Jesus Burgess from the Blackbeard Pirates and Jinbe from the Straw Hat Pirates. Now, it's hard to say which one is stronger. Jesus Burgess recently gained the Riki Riki no Mi, giving him incredible superhuman strength, but we haven't even talked about the strongest candidate yet, Shiki the Golden Lion. For anyone who doesn't know, Shiki wasn't just the captain of his crew, he was also its helmsman. So at first glance, Shiki seems like the obvious choice, right? Well, not really. Our goal is to build a crew that's even stronger than the Rocks pirates, and since Shiki was already a member of the Rocks crew, including him would defeat the whole purpose. So that leaves us with Jinbe, who easily takes the helmsman spot. Now, while a helmsman is important, a doctor is arguably one of the most valuable members of any pirate crew. For this role, we have 3 incredible candidates: Tony Chopper, Trafalgar Law, and Marco the Phoenix. Sure, we could also consider Crocus, the doctor of the Roger Pirates, but while he's an excellent physician, he isn't exactly a powerhouse in combat. On the bright side, his comedy is top tier. After all, they do say laughter is the best medicine. First up is our favorite little reindeer, Chopper. He's an outstanding doctor, and that's no surprise because his dream is to become the greatest doctor in the world. But even though his medical skills are amazing, he's not on the same level as the other 2 when it comes to fighting. So the real competition is between Law and Marco. If we're judging pure combat strength, Marco has the edge. His feats and battles against top-tier opponents clearly put him slightly above Law in overall fighting ability, but when it comes to being a doctor, Law is undoubtedly superior. We already saw his incredible medical skills during the Marineford War when he saved Luffy's life, and on top of that, his Ope Ope no Mi grants him the legendary Perennial Youth Operation, allowing him to make someone immortal at the cost of his own life. So does that make Law the perfect doctor for this crew? Not quite. In the middle of an intense battle, he won't have the luxury of performing complex surgeries, while Marco's mythical Zoan lets him instantly heal himself and support others with his regenerative blue flames, all without sacrificing his combat ability. Since he's also the stronger fighter overall, the doctor position ultimately goes to Marco the Phoenix. At the beginning of this video, we set 2 major goals. First, to build a crew strong enough to defeat the Rocks pirates, and second, to find the One Piece. To achieve that, we absolutely need an archaeologist. There are a few possible choices. Professor Clover is one of them, since he was actually a pirate before becoming a scholar. The problem is that he's simply too weak to survive alongside a crew like this. Another option is Charlotte Pudding. Thanks to her 3-Eye tribe heritage, she has the potential to read the poneglyphs, but only after awakening her hidden ability. Since the chances of that happening are pretty low, and she's not exactly a top-tier fighter either, she's hard to pick. That brings us to the world's most famous archaeologist, Nico Robin. Now, Robin's problem definitely isn't strength. She has the incredibly powerful Hana Hana no Mi, and she's even learned Fishman Karate from Jinbe, making her far more dangerous in combat than most people give her credit for. Normally, Robin would be the obvious choice, but there's one candidate I just can't ignore because he's even better suited for this role. Kozuki Oden. Oden was a fighter respected even by Kaido, putting him among the strongest warriors of his era. More importantly, he could both read and write the ancient language, making him one of the few people capable of uncovering the secrets behind the poneglyphs. So the archaeologist of our crew is Kozuki Oden. Now, almost everyone we've picked so far specializes in close-range combat. To balance the crew, we need a sniper, and whenever snipers are mentioned in One Piece, the father and son duo instantly comes to mind. Yasopp and Usopp. Both are incredible marksmen, but there are other impressive snipers too. Charlotte Perospero, for example, doesn't even use a gun. Instead, he creates candy bows and arrows that can strike multiple targets at once. But when judging a true sniper, range is one of the most important factors. That's where Van Augur of the Blackbeard Pirates stands out. He has already landed shots from nearly 10 kilometers away, and after the time skip, he became even more dangerous by obtaining the Wapu Wapu no Mi, which allows him to teleport across distances and reposition instantly. We also can't forget Izo, one of the finest marksmen in the series. Even so, when it comes to claiming the sniper spot on this crew, it really comes down to just two names, Yasopp and Van Augur. Between the two, I'd give the edge to Yasopp. He's one of the main commanders of the Red Hair Pirates, and it's been stated that Shanks' core crew is more balanced and stronger than the commanders of most other Emperor crews. That's not just my opinion. Even the Marines acknowledge how dangerous they are, so the sniper position goes to Yasopp. Now, the Grand Line isn't exactly a short trip. On a journey this long, the crew is definitely going to need an incredible cook. One option is Streusen from the Big Mom Pirates, the chef who originally created Big Mom's legendary wedding cake during the Whole Cake Island arc. But despite his cooking skills, he's simply too weak for a crew of this level. That brings us to the most famous, and probably the most perverted, chef in One Piece, Vinsmoke Sanji. Sanji can cook virtually any dish imaginable, and he never wastes food. After awakening his Germa enhancements in Wano, both his speed and durability reached another level. He also unlocked Ifrit Jambe, making his kicks even more devastating. In fact, he became powerful enough to defeat Queen, one of Kaido's all-stars. Another strong candidate is Lucky Roux from the Red Hair Pirates. Since he's one of Shanks' main commanders, there's no doubt he's incredibly powerful. However, after the Wano arc, Sanji's feats are simply too impressive to ignore. He tanked attacks from the Seraphim with barely any damage, and he even managed to block Kizaru's laser. Since Lucky Roux's full abilities are still unknown, the cook position goes to Vinsmoke Sanji. Now, no matter how strong a pirate crew is, surviving the Grand Line is impossible without someone to maintain the ship. While a shipwright isn't a role every crew talks about, it's absolutely essential. And for this position, there's really only one obvious choice, Franky. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not picking Franky because there aren't any other options. I'm picking him because he's genuinely the best. He's an outstanding shipwright, an incredibly powerful fighter, and his radical beam was even strong enough to blast a massive hole straight through Saint Saturn's body. Finally, even the strongest crew in the world won't get very far on the Grand Line without an exceptional navigator. That's why choosing Nami is an easy decision. She's one of the greatest navigators in the entire series, and after gaining Zeus as her partner, she's also become a much more formidable fighter. So without a doubt, the navigator of this crew is Nami. However, Nami is still physically one of the weakest members of the Straw Hat crew, and this pirate crew needs a navigator who's also a top-tier fighter. That's where Lafitte comes in. Lafitte is a member of the Blackbeard Pirates, and he appears to possess a Zoan-type devil fruit, although its exact abilities haven't been revealed yet. Even so, we already know how dangerous he is. During the 7 Warlords of the Sea meeting, he managed to sneak into Mary Geoise without anyone noticing, proving just how skilled and capable he really is. So the navigator of this crew will be Lafitte. Now, sailing across the Grand Line is a long journey, so every great pirate crew also needs a musician to keep everyone's spirits high. One possible choice is Scratchman Apu. He's a decent candidate, and he was even able to land a successful attack on Kizaru back at Sabaody Archipelago. But later we learned that his abilities have an obvious weakness. His sound-based attacks can be countered simply by blocking your ears. So the obvious answer should be Brook, right? After all, Brook is already stronger than Apu, and his Yomi Yomi Nomi has evolved to the point where he can even channel the chilling power of the underworld through his swordsmanship. But compared to the level of this crew, both of them still fall short. That's why I'm choosing Bonk Punch instead. I know we barely know anything about his abilities, but the musician options in One Piece are honestly pretty limited. The biggest reason for picking him is simple. He's one of the officers of the Red Hair Pirates, which already says a lot about his strength. So the musician of this crew is Bonk Punch. Now there are only 2 positions left to fill, the vice captain and the captain. Now, if we're choosing a vice captain, why not just go with the current one, Roronoa Zoro? Without a doubt, Zoro will eventually become the strongest first mate in history because he's destined to defeat Dracul Mihawk and become the world's greatest swordsman. But as of now, that hasn't happened yet, so he doesn't qualify. Instead, we'll go with the current strongest vice captain, Ben Beckman. He's portrayed as being incredibly close to Shanks in strength, and his reputation is so overwhelming that even Kizaru took him seriously during the Marineford War. But we don't have to imagine how strong Ben Beckman is, because we already have a vice captain who, even in his old age, was able to hold his own against an Admiral Silvers Rayleigh. Personally, I consider Rayleigh to be the strongest vice captain in One Piece. So for me, the vice captain position unquestionably goes to Silvers Rayleigh. Now it's time to choose the captain, and naturally this has to be the strongest member of the entire crew. The first obvious choice is the series protagonist Monkey D. Luffy. Luffy is already one of the strongest characters in the world. He has mastered all 3 types of haki at an advanced level, and on top of that, he possesses the most ridiculous power in the series, Gear 5. His potential is practically limitless, but there's one major issue: his stamina. Gear 5 puts a huge strain on his body, and there's one more small problem. It's not that Luffy's haki is weak, far from it. His haki is incredibly powerful, but if we're building the ultimate pirate crew, we need the absolute strongest haki user as our captain. So who should it be? You might be thinking Goldie Roger. After all, we already picked his vice captain, so why not complete the duo? But I actually have someone even better in mind. And no, it's Rox D. Xebec. After all, he was ultimately defeated by Roger. The captain of this crew is Shanks. The reason is simple. Shanks' haki has been portrayed as being on the same level as Joy Boy's, and he's considered one of the greatest haki users in the entire series. Whether it's observation haki, armament haki, or conqueror's haki, Shanks stands at the very top. So without a doubt, the captain's position goes to Shanks. Now, there's no question that this crew has everything it needs to find the One Piece. But here's the real question. Can this crew actually defeat the Rocks Pirates? And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel,